Thank you very much for joining me on this Saturday. I'm Brian Shields. I want to get right to this, what I'm seeing here with this system that I do believe will become a hurricane. Now, the first thing is the flood threat. Mexico, Belize, even Jamaica, Cayman Islands, and Honduras. We're going to see that higher chance of some areas of flooding. So I want to get to that. That's the immediate concern with this. And then, of course, the hurricane threat lifting up to the north, watching Florida in particular. I want to get into the European model, the American model, which are both showing a hurricane at this point, and I want to show you the wind field as this strengthens and lifts up to the north, plus how strong this could get with the very warm water. Then I want to get into some resources, WFTV.com, a great resource if you're watching from Florida. And then what we have going on with Franklin, better news for Canada and Bermuda. And then I want to get into the Eastern Caribbean. For us in the Eastern Caribbean, I'm going to be watching a couple strong tropical waves moving off the coast of Africa. Now, let's get to this. The immediate concern again with the flooding and the potential hurricane. It does look like this will wrap up into a hurricane. So a tropical storm likely to form as soon as tomorrow, a little more likely by Monday morning. I'll show you that in the modeling. Then on Tuesday, strengthening. Super warm water, Eastern Caribbean, always warm this time of year. I know it's summer, it's supposed to be hot, but the water temperatures are running above average, and not just the water at the surface, the heat content is very substantial. What that means is down below the surface it's very warm. So as this just kind of churns up the water, it brings up more warm water, so it's able to continue to hold its strength and strengthen. The worst weather for parts of Florida look to work in on Wednesday in particular. So again, I do believe it'll be a hurricane approaching Florida. Now, where exactly does this set up? And I'll get into the time frame. Right now, it's called an area of investigation. Sometimes you hear these numbers, 93L or Invest or whatever. That just means the National Hurricane Center is keeping a very close eye on it. They're investigating it. Hurricane hunters, the planes, will be in and out of it all day, getting very good data. This is going to lift up to the north. Now, anywhere from the panhandle of Florida back through South Florida, we need to keep a very close eye on this. Even Mississippi and Alabama, watching coastal sections. Again, it should be off to the east, but I'm going to keep an eye on this. And again, it is going to make its curve. I want to show you why and those steering conditions with this. Now, what are the models saying at this point? Well, the two biggest models, and again, I don't just look at the models, I look at all the environmental conditions. The European model has it as a hurricane, bringing a little bit closer or anywhere from Tampa up to the Big Bend. That would bring greater weather, a higher chance of at least tropical storm to hurricane conditions, parts of Central Florida and North Florida. That's the European model now, especially North Florida up toward the Big Bend. The American model, and I'll show you both of these, brings it a little bit more to the west, looking over toward Florida State, so FSU. Again, the students just got back on campus. This would head more up to that direction, again, as a hurricane. Both are showing hurricanes. Been looking at the Icon model. I've been looking at the Canadian model. Everything out there, everything at this point is showing at least a strong tropical storm. Now, as far as the modeling goes, this will shift around. What happens is the planes get into it, and that feeds good data to these high-powered computers, and we get better information. So these are going to shift a little bit, but at some point it is going to make more of that curve. So again, the highest chance of a landfalling hurricane for location would be somewhere in the Big Bend of Florida at this point. Of course, that would wrap in even some rain and storms down through South Florida with some of those feeder bands that would wrap around. So let's begin with this. Here's the American model. And again, in about 4 graphics, I want to show you the wind field, so I want to get to that. But here is later today. And again, my friends, YUCATAN over toward Cancun, Belize, Honduras, especially north side, Roatan, watching out for flooding. You see how it kind of builds back? This is by 8 o'clock tomorrow. And that's why right off the bat I wanted to mention Belize, Cayman Islands, even Jamaica. Most of the action, yeah, it's off to the west, but we're going to see some rain increasing in Jamaica with isolated flooding, and Cuba, western Cuba in particular. Watching you in Cuba, got you covered. Again, watching out for that flood threat. It's just a little bit higher to the south, but a flood threat, western Cuba. This is by Monday, late on Monday. This is when it starts to strengthen. So you see here, and by the way, I'll get to that. That is Franklin. It starts to strengthen here as it lifts to the north. Still some very heavy rain even late on Monday in Honduras. So again, that's my concern for that flooding. Now look what happens Monday night into Tuesday morning. This rain here is just kind of out ahead of it, okay? So the main system would be right here. Now it's one of those kind of late developing systems that's going to be interacting with the Yucatan. Thus, it's not going to strengthen a whole lot today. It'll gradually get better organized, but once it clears that, then it starts to wrap up, especially by late on Tuesday. Right in here, this is when it becomes becomes a tropical storm, most likely already at that point, but a strong tropical storm. And then it has that window to intensify into a hurricane late Tuesday into Wednesday. Now, as I mentioned, the American model brings this closer, and that's why I mentioned my friends in Alabama, even Mississippi. Please keep a close eye on this. Any shift to the west would bring it more into that direction. But at this point, a landfalling hurricane sometimes during the day on Wednesday, even if it's off to the west, some of those feeder bands trying to sneak into South Florida, Central Florida, North Florida, but that would keep the highest impacts over toward the Panhandle and then lifting up some flooding rain possible, Alabama and Georgia. This is a western scenario. Still need to see what's going to happen. I tell you what I know and what I don't know. Not sure, again, a landfall point with this yet, but you get a good handle on what's going on because the American model and the European model are generally in good agreement. For days and days, they've been both seeing this system, and again, they're both developing it into a hurricane. Now, here is what's going on. Gulf of Mexico here. Cuba, Cayman Islands, Jamaica, Florida, Bahamas, you get back toward the Yucatan, Belize, even watching some rain over toward Guatemala and El Salvador, even down through Nicaragua. There is Franklin. This here, going out in time, I know this map's a little different. This is Monday morning, so still interacting with the Yucatan. So again, I don't expect a lot of strengthening, but on Monday, there's going to be generally a lot of organization with this as it starts to pull away from the Yucatan. Another thing, look at this. I mentioned the steering conditions. Here's the front. So Texas, even parts of Louisiana. Why isn't it going to go west? We've had the crazy hot weather, obviously, big area of high pressure. Well, we've got a front through here. A front acts like a fence or a barrier to help kind of prevent this thing from coming over here and help kind of steer it up into this direction. So the front will help draw it up here. So going out in time, this is by the time we get into Tuesday morning and Tuesday midday. At this point, the European model has it as a strong tropical storm and then increasing to a hurricane as we go throughout the day on Tuesday. Now here's the front. So again, one of the things I'll be watching will be how strong this front is, the timing of the front. That'll really dictate, does it come in over here or does it come in a little bit more over here? But it's going to feed off the warm waters. As far as wind shear goes, there is some wind shear that kind of helps prevent storms from developing as a whole, but it's moderate. It's not super high. So this should strengthen. At this point, by the time we get into Wednesday morning, this would be a hurricane very close to the Tampa area, up through the Big Bend. So again, a hurricane at this point Wednesday morning, and then after that moving inland with higher impacts in western sections of Central Florida, North Florida, and parts of the Panhandle, and then lifting up to the north. And what's interesting with the European model is it may still be able to feed off some of the water over here on the Atlantic side. So it could actually sneak off onto the Atlantic side. That would allow it to stay just as strong or even strengthen more. So again, that would be a scenario where we'd get some flooding rain near Jacksonville, up through parts of Savannah, and then back through Charleston, South Carolina, and watching coastal sections of North Carolina. So again, the American model will take it more inland, Alabama, Georgia, we'd have some flooding rain, but with the European model, it would curve a little bit more back over the water. That could mean more and more states deal with some impacts from this. Now, how strong does it get? I know this map is crazy, but one thing I don't like is on social media is those spaghetti models. They are fun to look at, no doubt about that, all the squiggly lines out there, but they don't tell you the strength of this system or the potential strength. This map does. This is out in time, so 24 hours, 48 hours, so 2 days out in time, 3 days out in time, and you see 3 days out in time as we lift to the north here, north or moving up, I don't know why I said north, going up to the higher here on the map. Here's this green shading. You see it right here. Those are tropical storm force winds. That's a tropical storm. This in here, category 1, the yellow shading. This orange shading would be category 2 hurricane. So most of the models bring this to a strong tropical storm in close to hurricane status, and then, of course, with interaction with land weakening. But again, almost everything I've been seeing overnight and this morning, I need to get a nap, has been showing this becoming a hurricane. So again, at least a strong tropical storm. And you know tropical storms, they could cause huge issues with flooding and with tornadoes. Now, as promised, here's the wind field. So as we get into Monday, jumping ahead to Monday, let me stop it right here. Late on Monday, that's when it starts to wrap up. And by the way, again, this is kilometers an hour in miles per hour. Got them both on there, okay? So miles per hour right here on the right side. So you see this white shading here, that would be 50 mile per hour winds or 80 kilometers. Now, as we go out in time, and as this lifts to the north, you see the better organization late on Tuesday. That's when it would strengthen. See a little red here? That would be winds of about 70 miles per hour. 74 makes it a hurricane. So close to hurricane status. This is the American model wind field. And then lifting up to the north, you see some of that red in there with the white. So again, close to hurricane status, winds at 70, 75, 80 miles per hour. That would be about 110 kilometers an hour lifting to the north. That would take the stronger winds again away from the Yucatan. We're going to have some gustier winds down here, and then it moves it onshore as I showed you earlier. So watching those winds carefully, but it does have that window to strengthen into a hurricane as it lifts to the north. So flooding right now, northwestern Caribbean. I mentioned parts of Jamaica and Cuba. Jamaica and Cuba, more isolated flooding. A little bit more Yucatan of Mexico, Belize, Honduras, and the Cayman Islands. High alert, of course, for Florida. And again, Mississippi, Alabama, also keeping an eye on this. It looks like it will become a hurricane, and that flood threat down the road and that tornado threat will increase regardless. Looking at that midweek landfall somewhere in anywhere from central Florida back through the panhandle of Florida. So still need to really fine tune that. I don't know that yet. So again, I'll keep you up to date on that. But later today, what's going to happen is the National Hurricane Center will most likely issue a track on this as a potential tropical cyclone. Idalia, that's the name it'll get. That is the next name on the list. So watching that, and of course Franklin out there. Now for my friends in Florida, best meteorologists there at WFTV, for live streaming of this, even if you're traveling to Florida and you're like, hey, should I get in? Great information, WFTV.com. They'll be live streaming with the newscast. This is out of the Central Florida area, and again, I'm part of that team. Great team, Tom, George, Cassie, and during the event itself, of course, live on air. So if you just like weather and you like that live streaming, I know a lot of you do, I read your comments, just bookmark WFTV.com. Good resource to have. And again, information on sandbags, information on flights, all that stuff if you may be even just traveling to the area. High interest, of course, in the Orlando area. All right, we get a look at this. Here's the broad picture, of course, watching this area here. I'll get to the Eastern Pacific in a second. Now, this here, there's going to be two strong tropical waves coming off pretty soon. One should kick out to sea, but another one is going to march across the Atlantic. So again, Eastern Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, north through Anguilla. I'll be watching that, of course, as that progresses. Speaking of which, we've been watching some of the remnants of GERT. Nothing organized. I don't expect it to get organized. I've been watching some of the rain near Barbados. We had some of the rain. Trinidad, we have been so hot on the drier side. Same thing, Guyana. Here's that area there. In Jamaica, you see again, just because nothing's super organized, you see some of that rain that's been filtering into Jamaica. For some of us in Jamaica, it's been raining all night. So that's why I mentioned that flood concern in Jamaica. Again, the system is going to build back to the west, but that doesn't mean we're not going to see some rain and storms. So giving you that heads up as you get back toward Falmouth, Montego Bay, Kingston, we have that chance of some flooding in Jamaica. Now here is Franklin. Franklin, better news on this. I still believe this is to the west of Bermuda over time, and it looks like it'll be a little bit more so staying away from Canada. Now, Canada itself, there's going to be a lot of rain with this system as it starts to work in, but it should be staying generally away from Canada. But I'll show you how it gets tied in with a front as we get down the road. So this is as we work our way through the day today into this evening. Here's one front up here, but this eventually is going to be lifting up to the north. So hang on, let me click ahead and get back to that map. Sorry for you. This is going to be lifting up to the north. Here's Bermuda right here. You get over toward Nova Scotia, Newfoundland right here. So what's going to happen is, yes, there'll be a big increase of rain, but as we go out in time, Bermuda, this should be staying off to the west. This front doesn't really draw in yet, and you see it here as we work our way forward. Again, this is by the time we get into Tuesday midday. I'll keep a very close eye on this, but with Franklin, most of that action should stay away. Of course, higher seas, that sort of thing. And then look what happens, a front up here, but here is Franklin, and you see this would be missing by a good measure. It doesn't mean we're not going to see rain in the Atlantic region of Canada, but that's really more tied in with a front. Franklin would be staying offshore at this point, but still gusty winds around because, again, that front that will be moving in. So I'll keep an eye on that for extreme eastern Canada. All right, we get back here, again, watching Jamaica. I've been watching the rain that's been filtering in. In this here, a little bit quieter here, but you see these tropical waves over here? These are the ones that are going to start to move off, and I do expect two of them to develop, and one of them could continue to march across the Atlantic. So short term, here's the rain, Mexico, and then look how it builds back down toward Belize and Honduras. And over here, the remnants of GERT. There is Franklin. That'll be lifting to the north. This is this afternoon. Still watching out for areas of rain in Jamaica, scattered showers and storms over toward Puerto Rico, even the British and U.S. Virgin Islands. So you see that rain that kind of builds back. Honduras, I mentioned El Salvador earlier, and Guatemala. Guatemala, seeing some of that rain tomorrow. Still scattered storms, Jamaica. There's western Cuba right there. Cayman Islands has that chance of rain, higher chance of rain. Mexico as we swing back toward Belize. And then going out in time, this is tomorrow afternoon, and then bringing you into Monday. That's when this system here starts to get better organized and lift to the north. And by the way, over here, St. Lucia, Barbados, we're a little bit drier and hotter over toward Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Still watching that rain there in Belize, but there's that system that will start to pull up to the north as we work our way into Monday. Eastern Pacific side, it's been a little bit quieter. Could see a little spot that'll try to develop some, but again, not seeing any crazy development on the Eastern Pacific side. So Jamaica, isolated flooding. Again, I've been highlighting that. A 70% chance today and tomorrow, a 90% chance of rain over toward the Yucatan of Mexico. Areas of flooding, please use some caution. Very wet at times, even tonight into tomorrow. Belize, 60-70% chance of rain. Watching out for areas of flooding with this developing system that is just nearby, really. Cayman Islands, same thing. Rain chance today and tomorrow at that higher 70% chance. Keep me posted in the comments. Puerto Rico, 70% chance of scattered showers and storms today, 40% chance tomorrow. Turks and Caicos, rain chance pretty limited, isolated 30% chance. 30% chance through the Bahamas as we go throughout the weekend. And then as we get back through Trinidad and Tobago, scattered storms possible today, still staying super hot back through Trinidad over toward Port of Spain. Barbados, 30% chance today, tomorrow 40% chance on Monday. 40% chance of a few showers nearby as we get over towards St. Lucia and back through Haiti. Scattered storms, what's left of Franklin, moving up to the north, but still on the south side of that, seeing some scattered showers and storms. Dominican Republic, same thing, a 70% chance in any thunderstorms in the DR today. We could see some isolated areas of flooding. Grenada's rain chance 40%, 30% chance on Sunday, 50% chance of some scattered showers and storms. U.S. Virgin Islands and British Virgin Islands. Aruba, Curacao, Bonaire, mainly on the dry side. A little bit of dust around as well, mainly staying dry. 40% chance of seeing some spotty showers today. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And as we work our way back toward Guadeloupe, 30% chance today, tomorrow. As we make our way into Dominica, about a 40% chance, little uptick tomorrow, both Dominica and as we swing back toward Martinique, rain chance at 40%, holding at that 20% chance, St. Kitts, Nevis, and Montserrat. And back toward Antigua and Barbuda, 20 to 30% chance. And as we get over toward Anguilla, rain chance very limited. Passing shower is possible, but only a 20% chance. St. Martin, Sabastacia, 30% chance the next few days. Costa Rica, rain chance stays high. Not all day, but that flood threat continues. Even parts of Panama and Nicaragua. Northern Venezuela, 30 to 40% chance. Drought conditions starting to take hold. Guyana and Suriname, mainly dry through Suriname as we go over the next few days, if not few weeks. So again, Gulf of Mexico on high alert for this system that'll develop into a hurricane. Impacts coming late Tuesday into Wednesday. I'll be fine-tuning that. Short term, again, watching Mexico, Cuba, Cayman Islands, parts of Jamaica, Honduras, and Belize for some of the flooding just as this system gets stronger. So I'll keep you posted. Don't forget about WFTV.com for a resource. Thank you, my friends. I know a lot of folks have been sharing this around Belize and Mexico the last couple days to kind of get ahead of the flooding. So I do appreciate that. That's why this channel is done. It is done for safety. So thank you for being part of this weather community. I will do my best to keep it posted and go through the comments throughout the day. Be safe. Have a good rest of your day.